Doesn't appear that there's much looting off of enemy bodies, which is interesting too. I did just shoot an ally earlier and it didn't do anything. Oh, I got Rel! Let's go, Shell! We got Rel! Good day there once again, viewers. This is your mate Kamikaze78 here, coming to you guys today with some more Planetside Arena content. And when I say that, guys, I say it in the most real form possible. I'm actually bringing you Planetside Arena gameplay. Today, the NDA for the game lifted, and we were able to stream and record VOD footage in the closed beta test. It was a grand old time. I actually had a lot of fun, and in today's video, I want to go over some personal thoughts as well as some gameplay differences that I have seen since my last test back in January. Now, I didn't report on that much back then because, for one, the game was still under NDA, and quite frankly, a lot of it has changed since then, and I didn't feel like reporting on stuff that was pretty much going to change anyway. But something that I do want to say, guys, just straight off the bat here, is I'm going to be reviewing the footage and reviewing the game that I played as I saw it. I'm going to judge it for what it is. Was the third person something that we really all wanted in the long run? Probably not. It was a shock when the developers announced that they were going with a third person perspective, and not many people were too happy about that. But it's the game that we are getting. I'm not going to spend half this video ranting about why third person shouldn't be a thing, because it's what we've got at the end of the day, and I feel as though this video will be a lot more constructive if we focus on the wider aspect of the game and just generally how the game played. I feel as though the whole discussion of first versus third person in a game like this could take a whole video, and quite frankly, I don't have enough time for that conversation in this video. So we're going to take the footage and the game as it is in this video. We're not going to discuss the third versus first person controversy. Anyway, let's kick it off with the most important question of the bunch. How did the game play? Firstly, we played the 12-man squad Battle Royale mode in this closed beta test. At the start of the game, the entire squad all dropped together. Your drop location was not chosen by anyone, it was random. The game would spawn you in, dropping in at a random location on the map. You could also not deviate from the drop location, and you would be forced to land with your squad. This, in my opinion, is really good. It keeps the squad close enough in larger games to possibly get into a fight, but by the same token, they had a chance to get some, your squad had a chance to get some early game upgrades and at least get situated before being dropped into a total shitstorm. You started off every game with a basic loadout. You started off with an ability, a deployable, a primary, a secondary, a sidearm weapon, a shield, and a jetpack. Now, all of these elements could be upgraded, which would improve the efficiency of your loadout by just looting on the general map through loot boxes or through different little icons that were hovering around in certain bases and things like that, kind of like how you would loot in any other game. Now, there were certain elements of your loadout that you could customize before you even got into the game by choosing what class you're going to take, as well as the weapons that you would have in your loadout. Now, your weapons could not be changed during the game at all. What you picked is what you were stuck with from the get-go. Your weapons and soldier could also have one mod attached to them, which you would also carry throughout the game. This could not be swapped, and it augmented your loadout in a little bit of a way to give you a certain benefit. For example, the loadout mod that I had on my weapons the majority of the game was if I broke an enemy shield, I would get a tick of ammo in reserve back, which was a nice little bonus. And just to clarify here, guys, you started off out of the drop pod with your basic kit. You didn't need to go find weapons, you weren't unarmed at the start of the game. This to me is a very nice quality of life feature, and I will discuss that in a few moments here. Everyone also had access to either a Flash or a Tempest hoverbike, which allowed for quick and easy transport at any time. All you had to do was press X and the vehicle would spawn out from under you and you could start driving away. Now, this really did keep the gameplay speedy, and you never really felt like you're going to be condemned to the circle at any time, assuming you at least kept an eye on it and weren't caught out too far. This meant that you could also go scouting ahead for your squad, or you could even go ahead to another base and try to do a bit of cheeky solo looting before catching up with the rest of your squad again. There was that mobility there, which was very, very nice. You could also catch up to a squad mate who got ambushed too, which was a nice touch. I, for example, did get ambushed a couple of times in this playtest. I made a call out to my squad, and then the entire squad came charging in to assist me. Very, very nice. As the game continued, Vanguards and high-tier loot drops became available on the map for players to wrestle control over. The Vanguards actually really focused on teamwork, requiring 3 people to control them. You needed a dedicated driver and 2 dedicated gunners, one for the main gun and one for the top-mounted machine gun. This I certainly found to be a really interesting addition to the game and meant that you could only have a maximum of 4 fully operational Vanguards per squad as opposed to what it would have been as 6 if it was just a 2-man vehicle. So I'm quite happy with that aspect of the Vanguards, but I want to come back to them in a few moments here as well. High tier loot drops offer endgame upgrades to abilities, shields, and power weapons such as rocket launchers, lashes, or even sniper rifles from what I could understand, as some players were unlocking that sort of gear as well. Now, something else, if you were downed, an ally could come and revive you within 45 seconds and you would keep all of your gear from beforehand. Combat medics are able to revive you a lot faster than other troops, but anyone in the squad can come and revive you if need be. However, if an enemy actually comes up to your body and loots you before an ally can revive you, you will be considered in a dead state. Despite this, you can actually still be brought back into the fight after you're in this quote-unquote dead state. Allies can reach respawn bunkers that allow for them to call in 2 dead allies at a time via drop pod. The respawn terminal needs to recharge before more allies can be called back into the fight, but you can at least get an entire squad back in if you're patient enough and can hold the fort for long enough. When you do come back into the fight, you are starting back off with your standard green tier loot, if you will. Beyond that, it was a massive scale BR experience, and I personally really enjoyed it. The game was really fast paced, aggressive, and there was a constant feeling of increasing intensity, if you will. Like, the game constantly ramped up in intensity as the map got smaller and smaller and the large sized squads kept meeting and meeting more frequently. The looting felt pretty quick and simple. There was never a risk of you looting something that was worse off than what you had before, which was a nice quality of life aspect of the game. They're kind of similar to Apex Legends, where you simply cannot pick up a piece of body armor if it's worse than what you have already. It's the same deal applies here. The weapon handling also felt really good in the game, really reminiscent to that of the Planetside 2 experience that we all know and love. There was a clear difference in handling when compared to the nanite system weapons and the VS weapons that I got to try out. Quite simply, I wasn't disappointed with the weapon handling experience in the game. However, this does bring me to the first thing that I want to see expanded upon: customization. There needs to be more weapons and a lot more ways to augment your soldier overall, I feel. I feel as though we will see a sleuth of NC and TR weapons added to the game over time, maybe even at the release of the game. But right now, weapon selection is very linear. You have about 2 options, maybe, I think you got 3 for a sidearm, and 2 options in every other weapon category that you can take with you on your loadout. It's not exactly what I'd call an eccentric customization system. And when it comes to customization, I was really hoping for a little bit more oomph in this regard. Personally, I'd like to see each class get different abilities that they could go with into battle, that give them different strengths and weaknesses. Honestly, I feel like if you have a 12-man squad with everyone running the exact same kit on only 3 classes, the game is going to get very one-dimensional very quickly, and it's going to fail to retain a lot of players, I feel, in the long run too. I'm hoping that with the addition of new classes later down the roadmap and new gear overall, we can improve on this regard, but I was hoping for a little bit more customization and a little bit more personalization in that regard. There are loot boxes that you can unlock for cosmetic items only. I want to emphasize that. Cosmetic items only, and it looks like that's how they're planning to monetize the game for the long term, because there were inklings of a premium currency. But overall, I want to see a bit more progression in the sense of more things that you can customize your soldier with that actually make an impact on your squad and the battlefield itself. However, the 12-man squads were a huge plus in my books. This is the first ever quote-unquote fight to the death battle royale experience that I've ever played with this many people working together, and it was a refreshing experience at that, especially when everyone had the ability to keep up with each other thanks to the personal vehicles. As I said before, if a squad member got caught out, you would have your entire squad race over to save them, which in itself created a fight as both teams attempted to achieve these quote-unquote battle lines. And that right there is also something that made this very unique, the presence of battle lines. As teams got engaged, they would find spots to defend and hold key locations, moving up tactically and sending people out to flank. You couldn't just rush a position here as a solo man, because there's probably 12 guys in that building or in that position waiting for you, so you had to work with your squad to come up with flanking routes and really outposition your team here. There was a unique feeling of not only scale, but a certain camaraderie here. Something that would definitely benefit the communication side of this though, especially considering that the VoIP in the game was questionable in quality at best. I feel as though there definitely needs to be a ping system akin to that of Apex Legends, especially when it comes to marking out different levels of upgrades for loot and things like that. I found that, you know, I would often already have a certain upgrade for a shield or for a weapon, and I knew that maybe another squad member would like it, but it was very difficult for me to notify them and tell them exactly where it was, especially considering all the structures in Planetside 2 are fairly, or in Planetside Arena, sorry, are fairly similar to each other across bases, so that needs to be addressed. I think there needs to be a much more well fleshed out ping system in the game. There was a significant power creep by the end of the game though that I need to identify, and that is if a team managed to acquire more Vanguards, they had a significant advantage. Now that does sound a little bit obvious, but they had a very powerful impact on the game, especially when compared to the amount of power weapons in the game that could actually dish out competitive damage against said Vanguards. I feel like there needs to be more power weapons like the Decimator or the Lancer, you know, on the map to make the tanks at least a little bit more counterable. There was even an idea in my chat on the stream to make the rear of tanks susceptible to small arms fire, which was an alright idea. We'd have to play around with the balance quite a bit there to see what happens, but it was an idea and I was interested to entertain it at least. But the amount of Vanguards on the field could also probably be brought down just a touch as well. I feel as though they were a little bit too powerful on the field, and I feel as though the combined arms aspect of this particular game mode needs to be brought down just a touch. Gunning for the tanks, on the other hand, definitely needed some tweaking as well. It was a bit janky and I struggled to score hits on targets due to camera shake that occurred whenever my driver went over anything above a pebble, if you will. But overall, it was a nice experience to be able to work with a fully fleshed out tank crew, if you will. Performance was also patchy at best. There were some significant frame rate drops whenever an announcement came over the game that said that the pain zone was, you know, shrinking or stuff like that, and the game was chewing up a lot of GPU power despite being on the lowest setting for the majority of the test. Some optimization would really be key here, and I feel as though there needs to be an option to bring down the view distance quite a bit as well. I don't think a 3000 render range is really required for a game like this, especially if it's going to kill fairly moderate end systems like myself. Like, I think that just needs to be answered there as well. Anyway guys, as this video gets onto the longer side of things now when it comes to time, some closing remarks about Planetside Arena and the experience that I had today. There's one question that needs to be answered here. Did I have a good time? The answer is yes. Is it anything like the original Planetside experience? As it stands, absolutely not. This is a different game. It isn't going to be what everyone wants out of the Planetside franchise, but we kind of already knew that from the get-go when it was announced. At this point, for what it is, I enjoyed the game. But I think the only reason I enjoyed the game is because I went into it with a very clean mindset. I didn't set any, you know, expectations prior to getting into it, because I didn't want any predetermined negatives or any predetermined expectations to tarnish the experience that I was going to be playing. I wanted to look at it as fairly as possible and just enjoy it for what it was, not what it may have been if the devs decided to take it down a different path. When the third person was originally announced, I wasn't that excited for it, but again, I decided to, you know, step back and enjoy the game for what it was. And because of that, guys, I could honestly see myself buying this game and enjoying it for the long run, assuming the issues that I addressed in this video are brought up before the final launch. I will say that this game is not perfect, and it is not going to be for everybody. I must emphasize that now. This is not an experience that everyone will enjoy. Anyone who comes into the game expecting a totally reminiscent experience of the Planetside franchise as a whole, at least based on the experiences we've had previously with the franchise, barring the scale and the general aesthetic, will be disappointed. This is quite simply not a direct competitor to Planetside 2. It is more or less the developers attempting to broaden out this franchise and explore new horizons with the IP that they have access to. And they have an IP that can be stretched in many different ways. That's just what they are looking to do here. They're looking to experiment. Has the game lost its charm because of it? In a certain way, maybe. But I can't deny that I had a good time, and that is the one point I keep coming back to. No matter my previous complaints or concerns, and especially by comparison to the game that I played back in January, I had a blast here, and I'm actually looking forward to jumping back into the game when I get back from my trip later in September. It does give off a nice match-based arena-style game mode that I think will cater to a particular audience, an audience who may be interested in checking out the free-to-play cousin that is Planetside 2, that takes the scale that is presented by Planetside Arena to a fucking 11. I hope that for the sake of the series, this will succeed, and I think for that to happen, the devs need to make some really smart decisions as to how they're going to balance the game, how they're going to change some of the aspects of it, and how they're going to continue to evolve the customization. But on top of that, they need to play this really smart from a marketing perspective to make a nice impact in the industry and into a genre that is dominated by free-to-play battle royales. They need to offer a free-to-play weekend or something to give players an inkling to buy the game, at least an ability to try it out first so that they don't feel as though they're making a really high-risk investment. Daybreak Games hasn't always had the best relationship with its customers, especially on the H1Z1 front, and I feel as though this in particular is going to cater a lot to that audience. So there needs to be at least a free-to-play weekend in there somewhere when the game comes close to launching that at least gives players an opportunity to check out the game and maybe even decide to make a purchase from that point on. But key issues need to be sorted out first in order to ensure that the best results happen from that. Anyway guys, with all that said, that wraps up today's video discussing Planetside Arena. Now I'm really hoping I had enough gameplay to pad this video out. I'm really hoping I do. If not, I do apologize in advance. You guys may see some fairly boring parts of gameplay in here, but it's all I could get in the very short time frame I had to test out the game. Guys, if you enjoyed today's video, a backhand of that like button would be greatly appreciated. Let me know what you think of Planetside Arena. Do you like the gameplay? Do you think you'll get into it? Do you need a free-to-play weekend to try it out first? Let me know what your thoughts are. I personally will probably be picking up the game and be offering you guys content on it when it does release into its early access period and throughout the first, half a year of early access content before it reaches its full launch. Guys, once again, I really appreciate you stopping by on the video. Be sure to follow me on my social media links in the description down below and in the comment section down below as well. And I'll be back in a week or so, guys, after my trip. But anyway, guys, appreciate y'all stopping by. Have a good one. I'll see you guys all in the next one. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.